What if I told you America's favorite seafood isn't what you think it is? In August 2025, U.S. regulators recalled frozen shrimp after detecting cesium-137, a radioactive isotope. Shipments were blocked, products pulled from stores across 31 states, radioactive shrimp on dinner plates. This isn't a headline from a dystopian novel. This is the seafood aisle right now. Shrimp is sold as clean, healthy, guilt-free protein, a pink little luxury in tacos, sushi, and Sunday pastas. But behind those bags and menus is a truth far uglier. Stay with me, because I'm about to reveal 5 shrimp scandals that will change how you look at seafood forever. And when you hear the final case, the ultimate betrayal hiding in plain sight, you'll never trust a label again. The U.S. is a shrimp super consumer, and we rely on imports to feed that appetite. The majority of seafood eaten in America is imported, and shrimp is the most valuable edible seafood import by far. That means what happens in foreign ponds and processing plants often ends up on U.S. plates. Here's the part few shoppers ever hear. U.S. law bans the use of certain antibiotics in aquaculture, including chloramphenicol and nitrofurans, because of links to serious health risks. Yet month after month, the FDA refuses shrimp shipments for veterinary drug residues. A steady drip of entry lines flagged from exporters in India, China, Vietnam, and others. You won't see those refusals on a label. They're buried in import alerts and enforcement reports. Then came the 2025 shock. Cesium-137 detected during FDA screening. The agency placed an import alert on an Indonesian supplier while distributors recalled shrimp sold under familiar store brands. Officials stressed the detected levels were below the FDA health risk threshold, but the very presence of a radioactive isotope in a common grocery item rattled consumers and raised questions about how contamination occurred in the first place. You think you're buying clean protein, but you could be chewing on a chemistry lesson. If that sounds bad, wait until you hear how U.S. restaurants are lying to you, boldly, on the menu. Walk into a restaurant and order local wild-caught shrimp, and you expect the real thing. Fresher taste, higher quality, and a price to match. But DNA testing across U.S. cities has repeatedly found that roughly 30% of shrimp products were misrepresented. The species on your plate didn't match the claim, or wild-caught turned out to be farmed imports sold at a premium. That's not confusion, that's fraud. Recent local investigations keep catching the same pattern. In the Southeast, tests in places like Charleston, Wilmington, and Tampa Bay found restaurants marketing local or wild, but serving imported shrimp instead. In some cases, the vast majority of spots tested were misleading customers. When the truth came out, diners felt burned. They weren't just paying extra for a story, they were financing a lie. Multiple city-level investigations corroborate this trend. If a menu can't be trusted for something as simple as local versus imported, what else is being hidden behind the font and the flourish? And if fraud at the table makes you uneasy, just wait until you see what's happening farther back in the chain, where shrimp is peeled. In 2014 to 2015, investigations by global newsrooms uncovered a nightmare behind cheap shrimp: forced labor and human trafficking. Reporters documented migrants, even children, trapped in Thai peeling sheds, working 16 hours a day, locked inside, beaten and threatened, stripping shells off shrimp destined for Western supermarkets and restaurant distributors. The story wasn't a one-off. It exposed how a rush for cheap seafood opened the door to brutal exploitation. Pressure from consumers and governments forced pledges of reform, and many companies claimed to clean up their sourcing. But human rights groups have warned that abuses can slip deeper into the supply chain, moving beyond the reach of superficial audits. In other words, the shrimp looks the same in the freezer case, even if the suffering has just been pushed out of sight. So the next time you see a glossy bag of frozen shrimp, ask yourself a simple question: who peeled this? And while that labor story feels distant, the next scandal is happening on coasts all over the world, with consequences that crash back onto us. Shrimp farming has been called the slash and burn of the ocean. To build ponds, vast mangrove forests, the nurseries of marine life are bulldozed and drained. Mangroves protect shorelines from storms, store huge amounts of carbon, and support fisheries that coastal communities depend on. Destroy them, and you invite flooding, erosion, and climate change. How bad is it? In Southeast Asia, peer-reviewed research has tied about 30% of mangrove deforestation to aquaculture, a huge share, and shrimp farming is a major driver. Other analyses warn the regional rate of mangrove loss is far faster than rainforests and continues where enforcement is weak and profits are strong. And here's the American connection. When we chase the cheapest imported shrimp, we finance the expansion of those ponds and the disappearance of those forests. The cost isn't on the price tag. It's paid by coastal ecosystems and the people who live there. Environmental vandalism hiding in plain sight, in the freezer aisle. And yet the most brazen scandal might be the last one, where the shrimp on your plate isn't even what you think it is. Food fraud investigations have uncovered something galling. Products sold as shrimp that weren't what the label or menu promised. National DNA testing found about 30% of shrimp samples misrepresented, wrong species, wild-caught that wasn't, or commingled lots dressed up as a single product. And in processed items, think breaded shrimp, dumplings, or salad mixes. Watchdogs have documented non-shrimp substitutions or mixed seafood passed off as one thing. You pay premium prices for a story and get whatever fills the bag. But here's the twist most shoppers never hear. Even when it is shrimp, you might be buying a lot of water. Many suppliers soak shrimp in phosphates to lock in moisture and weight, then add a heavy ice glaze. Unless the package clearly lists a drained weight, you're often paying for water twice, the glaze and the water held inside the flesh. So imagine this, you spring for wild Gulf shrimp, but get farmed imports, plumped and over-glazed, with less actual shrimp in every pound than you think. That isn't a labeling hiccup, that's engineered opacity. This isn't just about taste or texture, it's about trust and value. If the industry can't keep species straight and can quietly sell you water weight, then shrimp isn't just bending the truth, it's built on bending the truth. And that's the final gut punch. After contamination scares, menu fraud, labor abuses, and environmental wreckage, you still might not know what you're eating, or how much of it is even shrimp. If these hidden truths are changing how you look at shrimp, tap like so more people find this investigation. It genuinely helps the algorithm surface stories that matter. And don't go anywhere. The closing payoff ties every scandal together on your plate. Here's why this isn't a somewhere else problem. The US imports most of its seafood, and shrimp leads the pack in import value. Even if contamination or fraud happens overseas, the consequences land right here, in our grocery carts, in our restaurants, and in our bodies. When enforcement catches a problem, you might hear about a recall, like the August-September 2025 cesium-137 incidents. But when inspectors flag banned antibiotics, you probably never hear a word. Those shipments get refused, and another container comes in behind it. The system filters some risk, but not all of it. But when you sit down at a restaurant, you're not just choosing a dish, you're choosing a supply chain. One that might be propped up by misleading menus, squeezed workers, and bulldozed coastlines. That is the shadow market behind a $12 cocktail and a $9 shrimp taco. So what can you do? Ask where it's from. If the server can't answer country of origin or wild versus farmed, that's a red flag. Prefer U.S. wild-caught from the Gulf or South Atlantic when available and verified. Yes, it costs more, but you're paying for traceability and oversight. Be skeptical of local claims in regions that don't actually harvest locally year-round. Frozen doesn't mean bad, but brands with traceability programs like QR codes or lot info beat mystery bags every time. And remember, if a deal looks too good to be true, it probably is, especially on wild or organic labels with no details. So what do we uncover? Contamination, from banned antibiotics to a radioactive recall that shook grocery aisles in August and September 2025. Fraud, menus and labels selling wild and local that weren't. Exploitation, forced labor ripping shells off shrimp while the world looked away. Destruction, mangroves bulldozed into ponds that poison coasts. And the ultimate betrayal, shrimp that isn't what you paid for. swapped species, commingled lots, and even water-pumped, overglazed product that makes you pay for ice and trapped moisture instead of meat. One truth cuts through them all. America's favorite seafood is not what the labels, the menus, or the marketing want you to believe. This isn't one bad actor or one bad batch. It's a system designed to sell a story first and the truth second. If this opened your eyes, share it with someone who orders shrimp without a second thought. And tell me in the comments, do you trust seafood labels anymore? Or is it time to skip shrimp entirely? Subscribe to the Shadow Market so you don't miss the next investigation. Because if shrimp is hiding this much, what else in your kitchen is lying to you?